What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Full 90. It is time for Bundesliga Week 4 predictions. If you didn't see it on the channel yesterday, we uploaded our first episode of the Champions League prediction show, so please go and give that a watch because the games, they're playing right now. At the time you're watching this, Athletic Bilbao and Arsenal and PSG and Union Saint-Gilloise are playing currently, so go and check out that video so you can get informed. You can come back to this one because the games aren't for another few days. Now, last week, out of the three, Serie A, La Liga and Bundesliga was our most successful show. We had either the correct result or correct tip in all but one of the games, and that was where we tipped Wolfsburg to win, and they drew 3-3 with Cologne after a late goal. So a good week in the Bundesliga. Even when I got the result wrong, we still got the tips correct. So that is the main thing. I think it takes a skill to, even if you don't necessarily get the right result, to notice that it could be a difficult result to predict and therefore go another way, maybe in goals, for example, and get the right tip. That is a skill. Someone was complaining in the comments in a recent video how I mentioned that by Leverkusen, you'd expect them to get a 3-1 win against Frankfurt. I went for a draw instead, and then they got that 3-1 win, and I was taking credit. But I did mention the 3-1 scoreline, and I did get a correct tip, which is kind of the whole point of these videos. So they were just someone that was complaining. Either way, you guys watching this, you understand. It's the Bundesliga. We are back. Flashed up on the screen also are all of the people that are supporting me over on the Patreon. So I just want to give a quick shout out to you, especially shout out to Uncle TJ in the bottom left of your screen, who did win the $100 Patreon giveaway. So if you want a shout out in every single video, as well as exclusive members tips and accumulators from me, then be sure to click that link in the description and get involved. But with that being said, let's get straight back into the Bundesliga predictions. We're kicking off with Stuttgart up against St Pauli. St Pauli, you could argue, the surprise package of the season. On 7 points, they only drew to Borussia Dortmund. They could have won that game. In all honesty, they could have won that game, and then they beat Hamburg as to be expected. And here we had both teams scoring under 3.5 goals, and they beat Augsburg 2-1. Stuttgart, on the other hand, they lost to Freiburg. They lost to Union Berlin with a win against Gladbach in the middle. I think Stuttgart are going to bounce back as the home team. I'm going to go for a 2-1 win. The tip, however, is going to be both teams to score at 1.7. I've got goals market predictions in like 80% of my picks today. So it's going to be a high scoring week. I've got all teams except for one scoring in the Bundesliga this week. So do with that what you will. I think there's going to be a lot of goals, generally, as always. Now, after we have Augsburg up against Mainz, this one's quite tricky. Both decent teams, both off to poor starts. Augsburg 1 win on the first day against Freiburg. Mainz 1 point against Wolfsburg, which is a very, very good point. I'm going to say this will be a high-scoring, split the difference kind of game, 2-2. And again, I really like the odds, especially for a Bundesliga game. Both teams to score at 1.7. Following this, we have Hamburg up against Heidenheim. Heidenheim 3 loss from 3. Dortmund, Leipzig, and Wolfsburg. I mean, all those three teams, Dortmund, Leipzig, and Wolfsburg, should be in the top 6 of the Bundesliga, maybe top 7. So they're not awful results, but they are definitely expected. Hamburg got the draw with Gladbach, and then lost to St Pauli, and Bayern Munich battered 5-0. Hamburg slight favourites here. I don't see it here. I'm going to go for a score draw 1-1, and this one is going to be the highest odds tip of the week. It's both teams to score and under 3.5 goals at 3.1. We could see a 2-1 either way, genuinely. So I think both teams will score. I'm going to go 1-1. After this, it's Hoffenheim up against Bayern Munich. Hoffenheim losing out to Frankfurt 3-1, but winning either side of that against Union Berlin and Leverkusen. And you'll notice here, there's always goals in Hoffenheim games, whether they're contributing, conceding, there's a lot of goals. I'm going for the same narrative here. Bayern Munich 3-2, 5-0, 6-0. I think Hoffenheim are going to score a couple. I think Bayern Munich are going to score 4. You could look at over 4.5 goals, whatever you want. I'm going to go for Bayern Munich and both teams to score at 2.37. The odds are not great, but there's just going to be a ton of goals in this game. Over 3.5 goals is an absolute banker, so take with that what you will. I'm going to go Bayern Munich and both teams to score. After this is Werder Bremen up against Freiburg, and this one is a little bit difficult. I'm essentially just shading home form at this point. I think they're very similarly matched teams. Freiburg losing out here to Cologne and Augsburg and beating Stuttgart, and Werder Bremen smashing Gladbach away from home 4-0 is a phenomenal result. They drew with Leverkusen 3-3 and lost to Frankfurt. So as to be expected, really, their results, I'm going to go for a 2-1 win here for Bremen at home, and I'm going to go for both teams to score at 1.53. Again, I think that's given. I wanted to look towards Bremen, but I'm just going to keep it on the goal market. After this is Leipzig up against Cologne. Cologne having a brilliant start to the season. 3-3 draw with Wolfsburg. I mean, there's a very, very late equaliser for Cologne. I think it was like the 100th minute. But I do think Leipzig are going to get the win here. I'm going to go quite high scoring, actually. I'm going to go for a 3-1 win. And my tip is RB Leipzig to win at 1.61. Cologne, I mean, they're having a great start to the season, but I don't know if I see it continuing the whole way through. They beat Mainz and Freiburg, but Leipzig will probably be their hardest test yet. And Leipzig, they lost out to Bayern Munich on the first day of the season, but since then, they've done what they need to do. Low scoring wins. I'm going to go 3-1, but in case it is win to nil, I'm going to go RB Leipzig to win, like I said, at 1.61. Following this, we have Frankfurt up against Union Berlin. Berlin 4-2 to Hoffenheim, funnily enough. The scoreline I've now predicted Hoffenheim to lose by. And they lost to Dortmund 3-0 after beating Stuttgart 2-1 on the opening day. Frankfurt lost out to Bayer Leverkusen 3-1. I think they bounce back here. I'm going to go 2-0. And the tip is Eintracht Frankfurt to win at 1.55. After this is Leverkusen up against Gladbach. Perhaps Bayer Leverkusen have got the new manager bounce. They've said goodbye to Ten Hag and they'll be back to their old selves again and they'll continue to climb up the table. And I think they can do it against the Gladbach side who have been disappointing this season. They got the draw with Hamburg, which is not a good result at all. They really should have won that. They got battered by Werder Bremen and they couldn't score against Stuttgart either. So that we are actually waiting for the first Gladbach goal. And I'm going to give it to them. I'm going to say they get a goal. But I think Bayer Leverkusen rather will win this one quite comfortably 3-1. You could go Bayer Leverkusen to win. I've just got over 2.5 goals at 1.44. Just in case we see some kind of resurgence from Gladbach. But Bayer Leverkusen will win this, I think, and I'm going to go 3-1. After this, it's Dortmund up against Wolfsburg. Dortmund have a game, of course, in the Champions League against Juventus. I think they're going to struggle there. Wolfsburg unbeaten this season after draws with Köln, Mainz and beating Heidenheim. But I think Dortmund are going to walk away with a win here, 2-1. I know they're not quite at full strength. I know they've got Champions League, but I'm just going to go for it at home, 2-1. But again, I'm going into the goals market. The tip is going to be over 2.5 goals at 1.44. So if you want a quick refresher on my picks here, as I said, I've got both teams to score in all games apart from Frankfurt up against Berlin. If you wanted a pick from me in terms of maybe 3 winners as a little winners treble, I would probably look towards the latter half of the list. I'd probably go Leipzig, Frankfurt and Leverkusen, but you could also think about throwing Bayern Munich in there as well. I think the odds are nearly 1.4, which for a Bayern Munich win isn't even that bad, but you know, I could randomly see that being a 3-3 as well, to be honest. But I think Bayern Munich could win. I think Leipzig, Frankfurt, I think a lot of the stronger Bundesliga teams will bounce back and get something from this game week. So that is going to do it for the Bundesliga predictions. If you did enjoy it, please do drop a like, subscribe down below as we're on the road to 50,000 subscribers. We just reached a new milestone, which is absolutely awesome. And I will see you in the next video very soon. Just editing this and I thought I'd pop this in at the end because I know not as many people care about it, so therefore it doesn't matter if less people see it, but I don't want to come across as salty. Feel free to disagree with my predictions in the comments and everything like that. I mentioned the guy at the start of the video who was just, I used the word whining, I'm pretty sure, and don't get me wrong, he was clearly coming from a place of kind of internet hate. He wasn't willing to have a discussion and he was not listening to my side of the argument, but by all means I will hold my hands up when I get things wrong, and I'm happy to get things wrong. That's what these videos are about. So if you do disagree with me, by all means, let's have a conversation in the comments, but let's just keep it respectful. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next videos tomorrow. I hopefully won't have to address this again. So see you there.